So there's one more award. You know what that is?
Yes.
Hashtag beast mode.
Oh, we do? All right.
I do.
Say what?
Sit there. I see.
I did get my notes.
So those of you who know me know how much I enjoy doing this. First, Andy pointed out a while ago that I met my goals this year also. My goal was to sell 0 houses this year. I have a couple things I want to say. First up, before I get started, I've been watching Tara and Katie's and Scott's videos, and they were incredible. I've really enjoyed watching you guys doing a great job. But I heard Tara say in one of those videos that this is her 15th year being in real estate, and that reminded me of something, so I wanted to share it with you. You see, I too worked with my dad for 15 years at the same company. Some pictures yet? Yeah. For most of those years, I was known as Carl's boy. Let me move so I can see my picture. The company had a family rule that you couldn't work in the same division unless you were on the same level. So after a couple of years, I had to move to a different city. So they transferred me from there, Dayton, Ohio, to Chicago, to Nashville, to Florida, to Nashville. I was at Nashville twice, and then to Nebraska. Everywhere I went, it didn't matter how far away I got, I was still known as Carl's boy. I remember calling him one time when we lived in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I said, Dad, one of these days, you're going to be known as Terry's father. So the year before I left the company, and the year before he retired, that particular year they had 6 major nationwide sales campaigns. My dad was one of 12 division managers. I was one of 72 district managers. That year, Dad won 2 of the 6, which was really good. I won 4 of the 6 that could be won by district managers. Got a phone call from him shortly after that, and he said, well, I guess I'll be known as Terry's dad from here on out. Fast forward to today, for the most part over the last 15 years, Tara's been known as Terry's daughter. That seems to be changing rapidly. Last year, Jim and Kenny invited me to the GNAR golf tournament. And if you've ever played in a golf tournament, there's usually hole sponsors on each hole. Jim and Kenny thought it was a good idea to introduce me to everybody that was a hole sponsor. Being the extroverts that they were, they knew how much I would enjoy that. If I heard it once, I heard it 10 times. They would say, oh, you must be Tara's dad. Yes, I am. Some of them even had the nerve to say, what do you do? Nothing. I smile a lot. I knew it was going to happen at some point. I just didn't really think it would happen this fast. Tara will never be Terry DeSelms, just like I will never be Carl DeSelms, but she has the potential to be the best of all. So if you ever have the opportunity to introduce me, feel free to introduce me as Tara's dad. I'm good with that. So under lock and key, Kenny called me a couple weeks ago and said that we would like to. That's Kenny guarding my car. He does that when he's home. Kenny called me a couple weeks ago and said he'd like to start some kind of a legacy award for the company. An award that would recognize somebody that rose above the crowd. Somebody that went above and beyond the call of duty. Someone that made a significant positive impact on either the company or team members. The first recipient would be given by me. The next recipient would be given by the first recipient. Does that sound right? So on and so on. So now all we needed was a name for the award and someone to give it to. Kenny said, do you remember anything that your dad did that might be worthy for us to pass on to the next generation? I thought about it for a little while, and I came up with 2 things. You see, my dad was really big on recognizing people for doing something good, no matter how small it was. He carried with him everywhere he went. I have one. These gold dollars. It's just $1. It's not really gold. I just call them gold dollars. looked for somebody doing something good. It could have been somebody that pumped his gas. Could have been a waitress that gave him good service. Maybe somebody busting the table beside him was whistling and looked like they were having fun doing what they were doing. If he saw them doing a good job and it looked like they loved what they were doing, he wanted to stop them and recognize that. He'd pull out a gold dollar and he'd tell them why he had the gold dollars. You see, the value of that award wasn't in its cost. The value was being recognized for doing a good job. So the value of that coin, it's $1, unless you received one of those dollars from my dad. For those people, you could give them a new car and it wouldn't mean as much as that gold dollar did. Someone, a stranger, recognizing them for doing a good job, that meant a lot to them. I like the option of the gold dollar. The problem with that was that times got tough again this year. We could spend that award and lose it forever. So we went with option 2. Option 2 was an award that Dad gave out one time a year. It was kind of similar to the gold dollar. He gave it to one person and one person only. Let me first say that the company that we work for gave us the opportunity to win some pretty fabulous awards. I won a trip to Las Vegas, Hawaii, Jamaica twice, Puerto Rico, Florida, California, and won a cruise on the Pacific Princess, which is the Love Boat for those who don't know. Love Boat. Now those were pretty great awards, but none of those could hold a candle to the year-end award that Dad came up with, that he called the Bluebird Award. You see, everybody could win the trips, but not everybody could win the Bluebird Award. Just for the record, you probably could have bought 2 of those little glass Bluebirds for about $10. But kind of like the gold dollar, its value wasn't in its cost. Its value and worth came from the meaning or the reason for the award. The Bluebird was given to one person only. Someone that rose above the crowd. Someone that went above and beyond the call of duty. Someone that made a significant positive impact on the company and their teammates. The recipient of this honor demonstrated an attitude of excellence, teamwork, and willingness to sacrifice for the greater good of the company. For all practical purposes, if you won that award, you were the man or the woman of the year. It was a big deal, and it still is. Let me tell you about the award winner this year. This year's winner is the Nick Saban of real estate. Now, those of you who are not football fans, Nick Saban is the coach of Alabama. Not a fan of Alabama, but Nick Saban has lost over 20 assistants in the last 5 years. Assistant coaches that have moved on to coach their own team. Sound familiar? Last year, at this time, Tara lost 9 of her top 10 agents that moved on to coach their own team. Talk about a nightmare on the Selma Street. In spite of losing 20 coaches, Nick Saban won 55 games in the last 4 years, along with 2 national championships. Only one other coach had done that. Most brokers and owners in Tara's situation would have thrown in the towel after losing 90% of their top agents. It would have been devastating to almost any company. Instead of giving up, she stepped up. You see, adversity separates the women from the little girls. I saw that for the very first time in 1996. There. We took a trip, took the family to the Bear Basin Ranch. It's outside of Colorado Springs. It was a sports mountain adventure vacation. Just to show you that I spared no expense. This was our bathroom. This was our bathroom. We hiked. We hiked up a mountain. It was a 4-hour hike up a mountain. That's Tara. Up above the tree line in a hailstorm. It was brutal. We also did some horseback riding. That should be Tara on an Electra. Yep, there she is. We also did a 30-mile bike ride. Tara decided to get off the bike after about 25 miles after hitting a patch of rock in the road and after hitting the road.
That's nice.
Jeannie said, don't choke on it, don't choke.
Still have a scar.
We also did some whitewater rafting and rock climbing. The first day was rock climbing. When they said we were gonna rock climb, I had pictured in my mind that we're gonna take this leisurely walk up this mountain and get up to where we can see out in the valley and maybe see some deer and antelope playing. It was rock climbing. And it was kind of brutal. There was one section, most of it was straight up, it was about 100 feet. There was one part that did this, and if you've ever rock climbed, this is really hard because you're climbing backwards. There was about 25 of us that tried it that day. 5 people made it to the top. The first one to the top was Jacqueline. She was Tara's older sister, she's 5 years older. A lot of gymnastics, cheerleading. She was in great shape, limber, flew right up the mountain. I was next. I made it to that one spot that everybody else didn't make it on, and I struggled for about 10 minutes, and I thought, man, my arms are killing me. I'm never going to make it up here. And I thought, wait a minute, Jacqueline made it to the top. I'm somehow going to get to the top of this mountain. I finally found one little handhold. I reached as far as I could reach, got that little handhold, and it was able to pull me up so I could get over it. Next was Jeannie and Tara. Jeannie got to the same spot, couldn't make it. Tara got to the same spot, and she was probably there 15 minutes. And if you've ever done any rock climbing, you don't want to stay in one spot 15 minutes. It's brutal. Your arms are burning, they're on fire. Finally exhausted, they let her back down the mountain. A few other people tried, same spot, they couldn't get it over that hump. Tara said, Dad, I want to try it again. I said, well, you know, you tried, you did a really good job. It's okay that you didn't make it. She said, no, I'd like to try it again. I said, well, okay, you can try it again, but if you don't make it, it's not a big deal. Just do your best, come on down, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. And she said, you don't understand. I'm going to the top. I thought, my outside voice said, yeah, sure you are. My inside voice said, no chance in hell she will. So she got to that same spot. She got to that same spot and she struggled and kicked and scratched and clawed, and somehow, I don't know how, but somehow she found that one handhold and made it to the top, that foot at the top. It was, I was pretty impressed. I saw something in her that day that quite honestly I hadn't seen in the first 13 years. When she makes up her mind to do something, regardless of what it is, she's going to go to the top. She made up her mind and she made it to the top that day. You guys got to witness some of that this year. After the 9 left, she licked her wounds for a few days, and then she got busy. Like Nick Saban, she hired some new agents, some really good agents from what she tells me. She fired up another boot camp, hired a personal coach. She dove into the company expenses to see where she could make some cuts because she knew she was going to need to make some cuts. Her goal was to cut as deep as she could without losing any of her staff, because she knew once she got this ship turned around, she was going to need them. We lost you. Oh, she did make one cut. The only cut she made was to her own pay, which she cut in half. You see, she had seen this before, like Kenny said, 2009, 2010, that was a rough year if you were in real estate. We sold about 270 houses those 2 years, 270 each. That's a lot of houses, but that was about 130 less than we'd sold 3 years prior to that. So she had seen it and she knew what to do. She jumped in knee deep to Boontown, where she just transferred 19,000 leads. Most of those leads needed her personal touch at some point. You guys saw her here at work. What you didn't see was for months, every night after she put the kids to bed, she had that computer in her lap working on that list so she could clean it up so you guys could have a clean list to work from. Also during that time, she was planning her comeback. You guys helped her throw the appreciation party in the Gulch. She hosted the biggest movie event we've ever had, 2 theaters full. In 2018, she chaired the award ceremony for GNAR. She was elected to the National Board of Directors and the Tennessee Board of Directors, both big deals. I watched as she rolled out a new brand, new colors, new logos, new vision for your company, not to mention hosting the biggest and best Nightmare on DeSelm Street we've ever had. Also during that time, she was a daughter to a mother going through breast cancer. She was a fabulous mother of 3 kids. And somehow, some way, she managed to help you guys close over 300 transactions. After Kenny and I decided what the award would be, and maybe who might get it, I sent a text to both of my sisters, and I asked them if they remembered anything about Dad's Bluebird Award. They both texted back with some pictures, like we have both, there's one. And they both said, well, yes. I know it was a text, but I'm also sure it had a little bit of attitude with it, because of course they remembered. I asked my oldest sister, Barb, if I could borrow her Bluebird Award so that I could show you guys. She said no. But here's what she did say. She said, I would love to be the generation that donates this Bluebird to the next generation. Dad gave it to me. I'm giving it to you, and you can give it to Ted. And she can pass it on to the next recipient of the Bluebird Award. She said Dad would be proud. Now you know why she had a Bluebird and I didn't. So my choice for this year's Bluebird Legacy Award winner was easy. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to give you this and a plaque that's somewhere to Tara DeSelm Stevens.
Stay in the family. These will be passed down to the next Bluebird recipient. But it says, the Bluebird Legacy Award, Tara DeSelm. Thank you for your exceptional passion. Thank you for your exceptional passion to others around. Thank you for exceptional passion to empower others around you, and for being a shining example of the desired culture we seek. # we bring you home 2018.